So, welcome everybody. Really nice to see you again. And now I feel more comfortable talking my language. So, I'm going to talk to you about entrepreneurship. And you might be wondering why I'm talking about entrepreneurship. Because most of you will be thinking entrepreneurship is something about starting a business and making money. My definition of entrepreneurship is that it's a method and it's a goal. And today I'm going to be talking about entrepreneurship as a method, and it's going to be a method for creating value for other people. So this broad definition that I'm going to use is something that I think sits very well with people in the arts and in the arts faculty, people who are not in a business school and are not thinking about, I'm going out to start a business and I want to make money from that business. I think it's a much more broad definition, and a definition that you will also recognize from your everyday lives. And I'm going to explain why I think this is something that most people will recognize. If we talk about entrepreneurship as a goal, I'm going to talk to you about entrepreneurship as being an everyday practice. I think that in your everyday lives, you will come up against problems and challenges that you think, how am I going to solve this? I don't have whatever it is I need to solve it. So you find other ways of solving the problem. And that is something that is a human trait. It's about being enterprising people. It's about being able to see other ways of solving problems and finding those solutions, those possibilities in your everyday lives. And I think you all do it in your everyday lives. You've just probably not thought about it before. So I think most of us are creative and innovative, and we find ways to solve the challenges that we have in our lives. And I think that some people are more creative and more innovative because they have developed those sides of themselves. And some people say, no, I'm not creative, I can't be creative. But I will not believe that there are people in this world who are not able to solve small problems in their everyday lives. I think this is a trait that we have as human beings. And the more often you work and use those kinds of ways of solving problems, the better you get at seeing solutions to problems. Okay. So my definition of being entrepreneurial is being able to discover, identify and qualify opportunities that are related to the challenges you meet in your everyday lives in whatever context that you're in, and you create value for yourself and for others. Very simple definition. It's about knowing the world you're living in. It's about knowing the context you're in. It's about knowing your own resources, and it's about knowing what you can draw on. It's about understanding what possibilities are maybe open to you in this particular situation and using those possibilities. It's like taking the paper clip and changing it into a piece of wire because you actually need to make that hole in whatever it was you needed. So it's looking for those kinds of opportunities and possibilities to take something, change it, and use it in a different way. All right, so now put that into your heads. I'm going to ask you how you go about solving problems. Now, you've all been to school, and I'm not going to knock the school system, but in the school system we are told usually that when there is a problem, there is a way to solve it. And what we're also told is that there is usually one right solution and everything else is wrong. So if you've learned that system off by heart and you've learned that way to act in the world all of your lives because you've been schooled into working that way, then you will be working in this way this little guy is working. He sees a problem, he thinks, oh, there's the solution, and off he goes, finds the things he needs to solve the problem and use that solution. That's what we call in entrepreneurship causation. It's, I've got a problem, there's a solution, that's my answer. That's what we've been schooled into thinking is the right way to look at problems. So what I'm going to tell you about is a method which some researchers have looked into because they have looked at entrepreneurs and how entrepreneurs solve problems. So successful entrepreneurs who've come up with wonderful ways of doing things, like Steve Jobs, they have asked these entrepreneurs, how is it you work? How did you work to find those amazing ideas, those creative solutions to that problem? And what they found was that the entrepreneurs who are successful use a very, very similar method to tackle problems. And it's not the one where they say, oh, here's the problem. Oh, there's the solution. It just popped into my head and now I'm going off to solve it. No, that's not the way they worked at all. So the researchers who have looked into this, and the most famous one in this aspect is called Sarah Sarasvati, she's Indian, and I think you might have seen her video on YouTube. She calls this way of working effectuation. So expert entrepreneurs use effectuation. You're not expert entrepreneurs, so we need to, if you're going to work in this way, to look at problems and to look at the challenges you have in your everyday lives, then you need to sort of work through the process of solving problems in this way. So what I'd like to do is to show you the effectuation process, and you've actually started it. Klaus has been working with you for the last 10 weeks on different kinds of ways of learning, opening up the digital, physical world, opening up the potential you have with the materials that you work with, whether you're working with a video camera or whether you're working with your iPhone or whatever you're working with. So he's opened up this potential, and he's actually started at the beginning of the effectuation process. And the effectuation process begins with who you are. Do you know who you are? Do you know what you're capable of? Can you put words on what your own skills and competences are? Because if I go out and ask other master's students at this university, what are your skills and what are your competences? They will tell me what qualifications they've got. And I will say to them, that's a qualification. What are your skills and what are your competences? I can give you a very nice example of this. I was doing my PhD in Australia and I wanted to earn some extra money. And I'm a teacher, and I've been teaching for 25 years. And I thought, I'm not going to go into schools and start teaching. That's going to take too much of my time. I want a part-time job. I want something I can just go in and do and come home again, earn a bit of money. So I applied for a job as a receptionist in a dental clinic. And I went for the interview, and they told me that I could not be a receptionist because I couldn't pick up the phone. I didn't have any experience of picking up a phone. I didn't have any experience of talking to people, and I didn't have any experience of writing appointments in a book, because I was a teacher. And teachers cannot do those things, because teachers stand in a classroom and talk to children or students. So this is a way of looking at what your qualifications are, and this is the way I was viewed as a teacher. So I had to be able to communicate my qualifications to other people. I had to be able to say, what is it I can do? As a teacher, what is it I can do? Yes, I can go and talk to people. I can communicate. I can make appointments. I can structure things. I can actually talk to people on the telephone. So those are the kinds of things I needed to be able to say about myself. Can you say that about yourself? Can you say what you can do, what your competences are, other than just your qualifications? Now, the students that I've talked to as well, who have been doing master's courses, they have said, okay, they can look at their qualifications and they can see that there's certain skills there. But then I ask them about their hobbies. And somebody says to me, she's good at riding. Or somebody said to me, he was really good at swimming. Aren't those competences too? Can't you bring the skills that riding and swimming are into your bank of resources as competences? If you've worked through any sports at all, you will know what it means to practice at something, to get better at something, to be in a competition, so you're competitive. Are you in the sports because you want to be competitive, or are you in the sports because you want to be social? So knowing those kinds of skills is really important, and being able to say what kinds of skills you have. So that's why the effectuation process starts with really looking at who you are. And I expect that over the last 10 weeks you know who you are and what you can do. So that's why I say the process starts here with who I am and what I know and who I know. So this is the last part of this, is who do you know? Who are you connected to? Who are the networks that you have that are available to you? Because if you know somebody very close in your family or a very good friend, they will bring other skills into whatever it is you want to do. So if you have good networks, we call them strong and weak ties. If you have good networks, you can actually bring those people's resources into whatever it is you want to do in the challenges that you're presented with. So then we go to knowing what your resources are, and now that means looking at the resources that other people also bring to you, because you're not just you with your skills and your competences, you're also who all those people are you know. If you can convince them to come into a project with you or to lend you their resources for a while, then you also have that to bring into whatever projects you look at. So that was the resources. The next part is that if you are, yes, go on.
This is a question about the resources, because I think it's a difference of women lending skills from my network for using a school project or business.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just thinking that the effectuation process is a bit different when it's just a school project.
Yeah. Okay. So Lee, just tell me a little bit more about what you think when you say school project.
Like the project we just made for the last 10 weeks was a school project for me, because I didn't use it in my work. So that's what we call in this world, we call this real life projects and school projects, right? So is this real life? Are you going to make this real, or is this something you're doing because Klaus has asked you to do it? Well, some of it, yes.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't, because we are in a group, and some, I was with Simon and it was his work, not mine.
Yeah. Okay. So it was real for him, but not for you. Is that right?
Well, that's a bit black and white, but it's not my work directly.
Yeah. But
it just made me think.
Yes.
The network is a bit different of a school project than it is for me.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't want to, draw on people for.
You wouldn't draw on your own networks then?
Yes, I will, but I will differentiate it and
Good.
see, when do they have time? Do they have time for this?
Yeah. But it could also just be making connections. Connections to, for example, Klaus has used Steen down at the library. And he's not used Steen's time, but he's asked if he can make that connection to the library so that we can use that building, right? So it could just be making connections to resources that you need that way. But it's a really good point, and it's one that my students often make is this for real? Are you wanting us to do this for real, or is this just something that I'm going to get a grade for at the end? Right? And I think the more real you can make it, the more valuable it will be to you later on. So even though you only make a very, very small project, if it's real, it will be much more valuable to you later on than if you make something that's a school project and I'm not really going to use this anywhere. Try and make part of it at least real. Yeah.